Agnes Flaherty,
Correct.
and she is a member of the World War II Flight Nurse Association, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her career as a flight nurse during World War II and beyond. So Agnes, would you tell us how you got into the military and summarize your career, and then what happened during your career, how you ended up getting out? You mentioned serving in the reserves, and you can even tell us what you did after that if you'd like.
Well, well, actually, I ended on active duty April 6, 1942. And I went to Hickam Field in Manchester, New Hampshire. And, of course, I was a second lieutenant at that time, I think. And anyway, during my time at Hickam Field, air evacuation program was started at Bowman Field. So I applied to go and was not accepted. The commanding officer didn't want to release me. So then there was a call for volunteers to go to the Richmond Army Air Base in Richmond, Virginia. So I volunteered to go there. And that was a station hospital, actually. The Richmond Army Air Base was, just as Hickam Field was. And as soon as I got to Richmond, I applied for flight school again. And I can't recall how many months I was at Richmond. But in any event, I did apply and was accepted. So I did go to Bowman Field to the air evacuation school and served my time there. Then I volunteered when I graduated from that program to go to the Pacific Theater. And so I was assigned to Central Pacific area. Admiral Nimitz was the commander at that time. But in any event, was assigned to Hickam Field on Oahu. And we went to Hickam, and from there we followed each of the invasions along. The first was Tarawa. Some call it Tarawa. It was Tarawa. We actually were the first in to receive the wounded from Tarawa. And the Japanese were still on the island when we used to fly in. So one of the funniest incidents was the old planes really didn't have latrines for women. And my roommate, anyway, as soon as she got to Tarawa, she said, "I gotta go." So they took her to this open latrine with one of the GIs to guard her. But that was the kind of thing that was happening at that time, because the islands weren't ready to have women military come in. So in any event, as soon as the terror invasion, as soon as the airfield was safe for landing, we would go in and pick up the wounded there. I think we went to Funafuti first, because that was a stop in the airfield before Tarawa. But then, as the terror invasion went on, we did go in and pick up the wounded there, got them back to Hickam, to Oahu, at the General Hospital. They were taken there, and sometimes we went from Oahu to San Rafael, Hamilton Air Base, taking the wounded all the way back. And then from Hamilton, the wounded were taken to the air base nearer their home, but we didn't do that. We stopped. We stopped at Hamilton, then returned to Hickam Field and to follow each of those invasions. We went from Hickam to Tarawa, and then Saipan, and then Guam, and then Okinawa, and until VJ Day. So we went to Philippines. We went to all those islands to pick up the wounded and transported them all the way back. So, and there was one nurse and one technician on each plane. And as I recall, we had 28 litters on the plane. They were the old C-54s, which is a big 4-engine plane, not a jet plane during World War II. We didn't have the jets. So our flights were 10 to 12 hours in the air with our wounded. And most of the wounded that we transported were Marines, because it was the Marines who did most of the fighting in the Pacific Theater. So, but in any event, we did transport them all the way back to the United States, to San Rafael, Hamilton Field. And then the Air Force group within the United States transported them to the place nearest their home. So I think we took pretty good care of our wounded, actually. It was nothing automatic. It was always personal. It was always trying to relate, the wounded to where their family was and to get them back nearest their home that we could. So that was, but we did go over for the terror invasion, and that was, I think, the first big invasion in the Central Pacific area. And then we followed each invasion along. And as soon as an airfield was secure enough for the C-54s to go in, we would go in and pick up the wounded and bring them all the way back to the United States.
After your Hickam assignment?
Well, actually, the Hickam was the home base. Then we followed each invasion along and landed as soon as the airfield was secure.
Is that when you joined the reserves, after
Yes,
VJ Day?
After VJ Day.
Okay.
Yeah, in September of '45. I
And
joined the reserve.
And what did you do in your reserve career?
I really was, I was at home in Maine and belonged to the reserve unit there, the hospital reserve unit. Then I got recalled during the Korean War and went to, I guess I went back to Bowman Field. Where'd I go? In any event, I was in, during the Korean War, I was in during 8 months, and my mother became ill. So I asked for a discharge, hardship discharge, to go home to take care of her, which I did. And then, however, I was in the reserve like 36 years, including my active duty. And I retired from the reserve.
Did you go anywhere else during your reserve time?
Well, we went to, I have to think, where did we go? We had 2 weeks active duty every year, and went to Fort Drum. It was Camp Drum then, in upstate New York is where we usually went. And we worked in the hospital there all the time.
And you gained rank over the years, and
I did.
So what kind of positions did you hold in the reserves?
I was primarily a chief nurse after the war. That's
For
why I
your
got
reserve
promoted.
unit?
Yes, for the reserve unit.
And you stayed with that same unit
Well,
until you retired?
Yes. Yeah. It was stationed in Auburn, Maine, but it was a general hospital unit. And we used to go to Fort Devens in Massachusetts for some of our 2-week training, and sometimes we went to Drum in upstate New York for that. But we had to have 2 weeks active duty anyway, all those years.
I bet there was a big party when you retired, huh? Was there?
Got an awful cute dog.
Yeah. That was your retirement gift?
Yeah, right. It was.
What year was that when you retired?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I can't remember. Is it 1980? Could it be that
About
long ago?
1980?
Yeah, I think
25 years ago?
so. Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about your training. Your commander didn't want you to leave New Hampshire, where you were. Why was that?
Well, I think he felt he needed the staff, primarily.
So he wanted to keep you there because he needed a nurse.
Right.
It was your hospital commander or
The hospital
somebody
commander.
higher?
No, the hospital commander.
Okay. And what kind of nursing did you do there in New Hampshire?
Well,
At the
it was
hospital?
a station hospital. Yeah,
Okay.
It was the hospital. We
Okay.
called it general duty nursing.
And all of the hospitals were called station hospitals?
Yeah,
if they
except
were,
the big general hospital like Letterman in San Francisco or Walter Reed in Washington. But most
they
of the
were called
hospitals,
general hospitals?
Yeah,
The big ones?
the big ones. And the station hospitals were the smaller hospitals within a base, like Grenier
Okay.
Field.
So that
in
was the way the
Manchester,
the Army called their hospitals
Right.
station hospitals.
Right,
If they were part of a base
yes.
or a post,
They
were they
were-
called posts at
yeah.
that time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mhm.
but they were called station hospitals.
Right.
Okay, and Richmond,
Uh-huh.
you're not sure how much time you spent there, but there was a hospital there.
Oh, yes. It was Richmond Army Air Base.
Okay,
It was a station hospital.
and who were the
Yes, it
patients
was in
there?
Grenier. Who were the patients? They were the troops that were,
Were they getting ready to
Station.
go?
some may have been, but many were the troops that were stationed right there.
Or
at
they were
Richmond
stationed
Army Air
right there?
Base.
They weren't ones
And-
returning from the war then?
Not, it was too early. I think.
Okay, okay. And then you went on to your training,
Mhm.
your air-evac training.
Yeah, right.
What was that like?
Well, we did an awful lot of marching and camping out. I'll tell you that much.
How long was it?
I think, I can't remember, I think it was 6 weeks intensive training.
Okay. Did you have anything that was called basic training in addition to this air-evac training? Did you have basic training when you first?
No,
Joined?
just as we were trained on the job.
Okay,
Grenier was my first station.
so it was all on the job. You reported directly there?
Yes, right,
Okay, as a
Mhm.
nurse?
right.
Okay.
Now, I
Um,
think most of the basic, what they call basic training now, really learning about the Army and all that type of thing, really happened at Bowman when I was there. Bowman
Okay.
Field.
Okay. And then you went on to Hickam Field.
Mhm.
Were any of these other nurses that are here at this convention, did you serve with them?
No.
You don't remember
No.
seeing them?
No, I think most of them were in Europe.
Okay. There's been two others today
From the
that
Pacific?
did air-evac at Hickam
Well,
Field.
they were back in Europe, though.
No, Hickam Field,
At Hickam Field?
yes.
Oh, who
Yeah.
are they?
Um,
They're probably younger than I am.
what years were you at Hickam Field?
Oh, let's see.
I know Fran Thorpe was one. She was at Hickam.
Yeah. I don't think Fran was at Hickam
Wait,
when I was there.
Well, I'll look them up for you. I'll look them up
Yeah.
for you later, but there's at least two nurses here that were
I know
air-evac
Fran
nurses.
quite well. In fact,
Yeah.
I room with her. But,
What years were you at
where was
Hickam?
I must have been there 43 to 45.
Okay. And what squadron?
The 809th Medical Air
Yeah.
Evacuation Transport Squadron.
809. And
809.
where did you live?
We lived on the post at Hickam.
Mm-hmm.
We had nice apartments.
You were in an apartment?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Officers' quarters, they called them BOQs, Bachelor's Officers' Quarters. But we lived in those.
were they like little townhouses? Were
Yeah, they were like townhouses today. They were very nice quarters.
Was it shaped like this? Or was it a U-shaped building with apartments on one side and in the back and coming down the other
Yeah, I
side?
think so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Those are still there today.
I imagine they are.
Yeah. Okay, so you, the ladies that were in the 809th, did you all live kind of close together?
Yeah, we did.
And you tended to fly, you took different flights though, right?
Right, we did.
Okay.
Yeah, it was according to the need at the time. See, we went over for the terror invasion, and we were there for Kwajalein and Guam and
Mhm.
Saipan and
Mhm.
the Philippines. And
So for 2
Okinawa.
years you flew and you were based out of Hickam.
Right.
How much time did you spend at Hickam versus actually in the air? Or
Oh, well,
in other countries?
yeah. I don't know, we may have been in 3 or 4 days, then we have a flight that we might go to Philippines, or we might go to Guam or Saipan.
So you might have
Maybe
been
back.
gone for about how long at a time?
Oh, probably 2 to 3 weeks. because when we were on Saipan or Guam, we set up a holding area for the planes coming in with patients, and we'd take them off the planes and freshen their dressings, give them a bath, and do what was necessary medically before they went on again.
Okay, so you actually took care of these patients before you got them onto the plane?
Yeah.
In the holding areas? Okay.
We might, or there might be another nurse that was assigned to go out. But
Okay.
anyway, the flight nurses did take care of them in the holding areas.
Were your quarters at Hickam, were they close to the officers' club, or were they close to the hospital? The station
Well,
hospital?
they weren't far from the hospital. I think we worked at the Hickam Hospital too when we weren't busy flying. So we did what they call general duty nursing there.
You did?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other nurses I talked to today that were at Hickam Field didn't
They
do
didn't?
that.
No,
Yeah.
we did.
So when you weren't flying and you weren't having days off, you would be
Mhm.
at the Hickam Station Hospital
Right.
doing general duty nursing.
Right.
And that was between 43 and 45.
Right.
What,
Yeah.
do you know some of the nurses that were there at that time?
Gee, I don't.
The
Most
Army
of-
nurses?
No, most of mine have departed this world, I'm afraid,
That,
that were with me.
in the
anyway.
AirVac,
Yeah.
in the AirVac unit.
Yeah,
How about
that
the, did you get to know the nurses that
No,
were
not
stationed
very-
full-time?
Not very much. We were our quarters were separate of those, and we worked with them, but we didn't
Mhm.
get to know them that well. And, we'd be there maybe a couple days working, and then be on the plane.
But you worked on the same wards they did?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the relationship like between
Oh,
the
very good.
AirVac nurses and the ones that were at Hickam Station Hospital?
I think it was professional. They were happy. We were all registered nurses. And, there were a lot of the medical techs, medical specialists that they called them, that did a lot of the work within the hospital. So they were very happy to have some RNs in there working and caring for the patients. So,
Did you know their chief nurse?
I
Did you
can't-
ever meet her?
I'm sure we did, but I can't remember who she was.
Okay. Well, the one I knew about's name was Annie Fox.
No,
I don't know if she was still there or not. I know
I
she
don't
was there in
think so.
41.
was she there in 41? I don't remember
Yeah.
that name at all.
Okay,
And I think I would remember.
yeah. What was it like working at Hickam Station Hospital? What kinds of patients did you take care of there?
Well, we cared for any of the troops that were ill and needed to be hospitalized that were stationed at Hickam Field. And sometimes there would be patients brought in by planes from the islands.
So maybe some of those patients were patients you had brought in?
Mm-hmm. Might be.
And did you ever serve at Tripler Army?
No. A lot of our patients went to Tripler
Okay.
that we brought in by plane.
So some of them might have gone to Hickam, maybe the less sick ones?
Well,
or-
no, I think most of them that we brought in from the islands, from the combat areas, went to Tripler.
Okay.
I don't think that it would be unusual for them to go to the station hospital.
Okay. Tell me what it was like, just an average flight, one of these 10 to a 12-hour flights.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what it was like from beginning to end, the entire flight, kind of what you did throughout that time.
Well, what did I tell you? We had 28 patients?
Approximately.
Yeah, the litters, probably 26. And they were on litters, and we did, what needed to be done. We did use intravenous therapy at that time, although not to the degree they do today. We just had, like, salt and water and glucose and that type of thing, which was what was available. There was plasma available, which we used to give. But in any event, during our flights, we did regular nursing care. Most of the patients were on litters. Most of them were Marines.
What was nursing care? What was routine nursing
They
care?
may have had wounds that we'd be doing dressings. We may have to, if they had a high fever, we would give them cooling soaks, and we did have intravenous's going. Of course, we administered medicines that we had on board.
What kind of medicine?
Well, I know we did have some morphine for actually the patients that were having a lot of pain. And we used that, and the nurses always had that in their belt around there. And the others, I think at that time, we used some of the first penicillin. Actually, I was stationed in Canton for a while, which is a Coral Atoll. I don't know if you know about Canton. Nothing on Canton, but we did have a small station hospital there. And I remember we had one very ill patient that we didn't think we were going to save, and we specialed him around the clock. The nurses did. And they did fly in penicillin for him, and he did recover, which was great. And that was some of the earliest penicillin used at that time.
Do you remember what year that would have been?
It would have been 43, maybe early 44.
And did you make the decision yourself to use the penicillin, or was there a physician there?
Oh, there was a physician available, and of course we had to get that penicillin flown in, and the physician would order.
Okay. But in the air, you had orders?
This was a small station, small hospital.
Yeah. But in the air, you made your own decisions as to when to give medication?
Oh, yes, yes.
Were you able to feed the patients?
Oh, yes.
What did you make the meals?
K rations.
What would they eat? What would the patients eat?
They'd eat anything we had, but the K rations were, they were almost like candy bars. And I really have to think back. But in any event, we did have these K rations, and they were packets. And I suppose what they have today, what are they calling them today? I just heard that title too.
MREs.
The MREs.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were very much like MREs, but they were K rations. And we used to get them and feed them to the patients.
Okay. Now, in 1945, you made a decision to join the reserves.
Mm-hmm.
And why did you make that decision?
Well, I guess I wanted to be part of the Reserve Corps. And I think I was thinking of retirement too.
Yeah.
Actually. But I did want to maintain a relationship with the military, with the Army. And I was at Teachers College, Columbia at that time. And I remember going down around Wall Street was where where you signed up for reserve. And I remember going down with one of my classmates at Teachers College. We went down and signed up. So we did it very quickly. In fact, that was when they first started reserve. There hadn't been one before. So we were some of the early reservists, so to speak.
But you could have stayed on active duty?
Could have. But I think I could have, probably. Although they had to discharge a lot of people because the military couldn't afford to, I think, keep them on. I guess I didn't think at the time of staying on active duty. I went to school under the GI Bill at Columbia University, so.
Okay. So most of the nurses were making decisions to go back to civilian life.
Civilian nursing.
Okay.
Going back home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me one of the most exciting things that you were part of while you were serving. What you would consider exciting or adventurous or unique.
Well, the whole experience was unique. When you came from a town like Portland, Maine, and worked in a small general hospital, then I reported at WWII Field for the station hospital there. It was just very different than a civilian hospital. It was regimented, and things were, you had to go by the book, so to speak, in managing the ward, and the nurses did manage the wards. So I think that was it was very different.
Did you like it, or was it difficult to get used to?
No, I didn't find it difficult, but I was probably pretty flexible anyway. So I didn't find it difficult, I found it interesting. I remember how interested I was. We used to have to, in those days, we'd have to prepare the meals on the unit, and it was so much fun. We'd get the patients up and they'd help us prepare the meals. You know?
Right
so
on the
that
unit.
was quite different from what I'd been accustomed to as far as patients were concerned.
Okay. And as a last question, and you can pause and think for a moment, but if you were to give advice to nurses serving today or nurses thinking about joining, what would you tell them or advise them?
I would encourage them to be part of the Army Nurse Corps, and I learned a great deal, and I told any of my nurse friends and the younger nurses after I came back that it really was a wonderful opportunity to learn how to manage the health care of the people, of the GIs or the soldiers, the Marines, or whomever you're taking care of. And you know, it was much more of a, now it's changed in civilian hospitals today too. You're more likely to have a partnership, a relationship with the patients. That wasn't true prior to World War II or during World War II. It was pretty much, you know, the nurses would say it would be done and it would be done, and the patient wasn't really a partner. They just obeyed the orders that the physician wrote or that the nurses had to carry out. And I think that during the military, the partnership really developed very well. And, you know, we'd get patients, as I said, patients would get up and help get breakfast and help serve it to the other patients. And that would never have happened in civilian hospitals prior to World War II.
Yeah.
It may be happening now.
Have you ever run into any of the patients that you took care of in World War II?
No.
No?
I did hear, I think, a few years after the war. In fact, I did hear one. When I was at Teachers College, Columbia, there was a young man that lived right near Columbia that he contacted me. We had a few meetings together, which was very nice. But otherwise, no, I think.
Okay. And after you retired, what was your, did you teach at the college?
Well, I was a student
Okay.
at Teachers College, Columbia. I got a Bachelor of Science in Public Health Nursing from Teachers College, Columbia.
And
then I returned to Maine
mm-hmm.
and became an assistant director of nursing, and then eventually became VP for nursing at Maine Medical Center.
At Maine Medical Center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you did that along with your reserve duty. Okay. Thank you, Agnes.
Okay.
Hospital. I'm wondering if you would recognize any of these nurses. These were the ones that were there in 41, so it's possible that they weren't there anymore in 43.
They may not have been, or 42 even. They got the old Army caps and capes on.
And that's what you started with, right?
Oh yes, we had those too. Slightly familiar. She looks familiar. Yeah. Which one was the chief nurse, do you know?
This was Annie Fox right here.
Right there?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And she was the first woman to ever get a Purple Heart, and she got it for her service on 7 December 1941.
Uh-huh.
And we went on to dedicate a conference room to her in the year 2000. So it's called Fox Conference Room now.
Oh, very nice.
And then Monica Conter-Benning, she lives in Florida now, and she and I talk to each other quite often.
Uh-huh.
And this book, Day of Infamy by Walter Lord, it starts out with her name.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A young Army nurse, and it talks about her and the man that she had gotten to know, and so that's where a lot of my interest in World War II started. Was right there when I was at Hickam. So you and I have run around in the same building.
I'm sure. Day of Infamy. I'm trying to think. I have a lot of books relative to World War II.
Yeah, let me see who the others were that served at Hickam, because with several interviews right in a row, I might have gotten confused.
Well, here I room with Fran Thorpe, and I didn't realize she was at Hickam.
Well, maybe I might have been wrong. No, she was the one that was in Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Mitchell Field, Canada. And then she spent time in Alaska. That's where I was thinking about her. Rose Miller.
Oh, I know Rosie. Yeah, she was in the same unit that I was in.
Oh, she was?
She was 809.
Okay. So did you fly? I mean, I know you were the only nurse on most of the aircraft.
Right.
So you lived in the same quarters, you
Yeah.
and Rose Miller. Okay.